What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan here with a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going to talk about some dynasty tight ends to kind of target if you just don't get a tight end early in the draft. So I got a couple things brought up. I have the Fantasy Pros ADP. It's pretty accurate compared to the couple of drafts I've been in. Also have the sleeper brought up just to go off of that as well. And then I have a notes page where I basically went through every team and found what I called missing targets. So it's teams that lost a player, a running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, how many of the targets they had last season, and kind of go into this season and see where there is room for improvement and opportunities. So a couple of the guys that stand out to me. So Kyle Pitts has an opportunity to grow even more. Obviously, there's going to be a quarterback change. But if we can go and find the Falcons down here, they're down 272 targets. So they add Drake London, Edwards, and they get Auden Tate as well. But there's opportunity there. But obviously, you're paying up for Kyle Pitts. So what I'm going to try to do is target some of these guys down here that you're not drafting high at all that may or may not fall to you. So as you can see at Sleeper, it kind of has the same thing, essentially. A little different, as you can see. You got Ermon Smith, Cole Kmet right here. So I'm just going to go off Sleeper for now, but if you wanted to see kind of how Fantasy Pros has it, where it's going to be somewhere around there. The reason I like Sleeper is just how quick I could get stats and pull it up and look at that. So we're going to go off that. So obviously for me, one of the guys is Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet, with his age, 23 years old, tight end. He's a tight end 2 last season, so not great. But he does get 93 targets, 600 yards. He had no touchdowns. So obviously that's a huge, huge difference in fantasy is getting those touchdowns. So maybe he does get 5 touchdowns. That adds a lot more points onto him, and he gets a lot more respect than he is right now. I understand it's the Bears offense and how lackluster and how bad it's probably going to be this season. But here's something I want to show you guys. If you could see right here, the Bears have 190 missing targets. They draft Velus Jones. They get St. Brown. They get Byron Pringle. They add a couple guys, but that's still 190, okay? That's basically around 64-something targets per guy. Pringle gets 16 Kansas City. That's asking Jones, a rookie, to get targeted 60-something times. But obviously there's room for improvement. And yes, I know that targets every year change and attempts and all that. I'm just going off of last year to try to get a good idea of what it would look like if we go back last year. So obviously 23, you're drafting him somewhere in the 10th round. Which is great because you could fill up on quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and then still get a very young, with a potential really good upside in Cole Kmet. Instead, he's 23. We flip out on 23-year-olds, and 22 and 21. That's what people love in Dynasty, and he's one guy that has the opportunity to take that stride. The next one, I'll stay in the division, is Ermon Smith. Yet again, another 23-year-old. Ermon Smith looked really promising on paper last year until he did get hurt. Obviously, Conklin was there, but as you can see, there's no tight end competition. It is him now, and we can go and find the Vikings here. 87 missing targets. They had no big additions. So essentially, if they played out the same season they did last year, we're looking at Ermon Smith getting about 87 targets, which would basically be the amount of targets he's gotten in his career. Obviously, he's had that touchdown potential, and this is splitting probably a lot of reps as we can go and see. Splitting reps, essentially. See some games he gets more than others, but essentially that is what Ermon Smith's had, and now he has a lot of opportunity. He's fallen almost 2 rounds behind Cole Kmet, so he's going in somewhere around the 12th or 13th round, which is huge. For a 23-year-old, yet again, you can add more depth at your quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and get someone like Ermon Smith, who should be healthy. He should be healthy once the season rolls around. I don't know if they're going to play him in the preseason, but once regular season starts, he should be there. And even if he's not, he's still 23. He's young. He has room for improvement. We know tight ends usually don't, unless you're Kyle Pitts, you don't usually take that big stride. Young, they kind of develop into it. Another guy, we all know we can never say his name, and it's nothing against him. It is just a difficult name. I do like him for his age, and we can go and find the Broncos here. They had 90 missing targets last season, so basically they lost Noah Fant. Noah Fant had 90 targets, so that's essentially what you're looking for in Albert. So far in his career, he's only had 55 targets, but he does touchdowns. Like Cole Kmet had 2 touchdowns so far in his career, I believe it was. And for someone like him to have 3 and a lot less volume, essentially, is promising, especially adding Russell Wilson. You're adding a quarterback that could be a little more efficient passing, but that is the upside you're looking at him, and he's only 24. So yet again, another guy that's dropping almost 2 rounds behind Cole Kmet for only adding a year worth of age. And you can get him after someone like Trey McBride, who Trey McBride is going to be a tight end 3 this season and probably not get any type of value for at least 2 years, sitting behind Zach Ertz and Max Williams, and we're not going to know what goes on with that, but he's going to be sitting there, so you can essentially get 2 guys that are going to get 80 targets, essentially, for a guy that you're going to sit on the bench for 2 seasons, more than likely, before they get any type of value, which isn't bad, but you have to make sure that you're committed to holding a player like that. Next is David Njoku. Now, David Njoku, I wouldn't say until the other day that he was going to be someone that I liked, but we can look at Cleveland, and Cleveland is amazing. The stat that I got from them, they're one of the lower passing teams, but with all the departures last season, 229 missing targets. So that's 229 opportunities for the entire Cleveland receiving, running back, tight end, all that. Obviously, they added Amari Cooper, they add Jakeem Grant, and they draft Bell. So 3 guys that can easily come in and grab a lot of targets, but you have to realize Austin Hooper, and I should have it here, Hooper had 61 targets last season. So we look at Njoku had 53. So hypothetically, we know there's Bryant still in Cleveland, but let's say you pay Njoku this money, he's going to be your tight end. 25 years old as well, so still in there in age, gets an upgrade at quarterback in Deshaun Watson, and his 53 targets, you could possibly look at over 100 targets this season, and the touchdown upside as well. So Njoku falling is even behind Ermon Smith, Albert, Cole Kmet, some of these young guys. He's only 25. Like, essentially in Dynasty, you're looking at least 7 years. He gets a 4-year extension, so you're looking at 4 years to where the Browns are committed to him. If they're not committed to him, he's going to be released, but you don't sign a tight end for that much money. Top 5 paid tight end, by the way. That much money and not use him efficiently. We saw him in 2018, gets tight end number 8, 88 targets, 639 yards, 4 touchdowns. So nothing out of the ordinary, but with him being the sole tight end now, like I said, they still have Harrison Bryant, so it's not like he's the sole tight end, but probably going to be used in at least 80+% of the snaps. He's definitely a guy that you want to get, and a guy that is young. So I do like that. A couple of the other tight ends, and I'm not going to spend as much time, but they do have value. I do like Trevin Jordan. He's 21 years old. On the Texans last year, Pharaoh Brown's there, and they could potentially split snaps. But Trevin Jordan's a 21-year-old. You're not investing too much into him. He's following in the 16th round, I believe it is. They on Fantasy Pros have him pretty down there, the 24th taken tight end. But he's 21. It's not like you're investing so much that if he doesn't work out, it is what it is. Like, tight ends come and go every year. there's going to be opportunities every year for tight ends, especially in drafts, if that's what you're concerned about. But he is 21. He is someone to look forward to and look at. And I do like just the opportunities there. There's not a lot for the Texans. There's 113, and they just add Mechie. So there's opportunity there for him to get those targets. But I wouldn't invest too much into him. I wouldn't go and get him if he falls to you and you're really in a blender and just don't know. He's definitely someone to take, 21 years old. You're not going to invest and lose too much on him. Robert Tonyan, I know he's up there in age. I do like him more for redrafts than I do for Dynasty. I still like him for Dynasty if you get to him. Obviously, big injury. 2020, you see him with the 11 touchdowns, only gets 52 receptions, and he has a tight end 4 year. The thing I want to point out about the Packers, if we can find them right here, 253 missing targets. That's 253 targets from players gone. And who do they get to replace it? They draft Watson and Dubes, and they sign Watkins. Tunyan's going to be healthy. He should be healthy, and come that time, he's probably going to get an upside in targets. There's not a lot of reliable guys for Rodgers. He usually builds that connection with players. He's going to test players, but when it comes down to it, he's going to go with his guys. So you're going to look at Lazard. You're going to look at Randall Cobb, probably being used a little more than they were last year, but he's still going to get Watkins in. He's still going to get Watson. But Tonyan looks like he has a very good upside, especially with all those missing targets. Gerald Everett falls pretty good. He's someone to get in the Chargers. Chargers, 83 missing targets. That's basically their tight ends. And Everett is the guy that should see all those targets. Hayden Hurst as well in Cincinnati. I think this is a great spot for Hayden Hurst. I think a lot of people forget his 2020 year. Where he had 88 targets, 56 receptions, and 6 touchdowns. So it's kind of what I look forward to getting out of Hayden Hurst this year. Obviously, the Bengals started to use Uzama a lot more in the end of the year, especially the playoffs. With Hayden Hurst being a receiving tight end, could definitely take that role and make up for those tight ends. As you can see from the Bengals, 63 missing targets. So essentially that is what, not what I expect, but the 63 targets pretty much go to Hayden Hurst in those situations. Next, Austin Hooper, 27 years old. We just talked about him from Cleveland. The interesting thing here, Titans, another team that doesn't pass the ball a whole lot. They have 277 missing targets. That means players that left accumulated for 277 targets, and they have to replace that. So obviously they draft Burks in the draft. They draft Phillips as well, and then before that they got Hooper and they get Robert Woods. They trade for him, but that is 277 targets that have to be distributed out. Hooper said got 61 targets last season, and we've looked at some of the success that he could do. The other tight end, you still have Swaim in there. Swaim has really not done anything crazy. He gets 3 touchdowns last year. But I would expect Austin Hooper to definitely be their tight end 1 and be a guy they use a lot. Other than that, the only other player that I'm looking at, and this is if you need another tight end that's probably going to get you some points this season, potentially as long as Gronk doesn't come back, is Cameron Brate. If Gronk doesn't come back, Cameron Brate is their tight end 1. He's 30. We've seen what he's done in the past when pretty much getting a good chunk of those snaps, and he's been a guy that gets touchdowns. Like, he's not had a season, and this is with O.J. Howard. This is with Gronk recently. Still gets 4 touchdowns last year. Basically, when he was their tight end, you look back-to-back seasons being a tight end 1, and that's what I look for value. I look for guys that are going to be in that tight end 1 position, because that's, you could trade. You could easily trade a Cameron Brate this season if he's a top 12 tight end. What that means is he is better than, if he's the 8th best tight end, that means there's 4 guys in your league with a worse tight end, and potentially some of them just had tight ends that got hurt, or they went young and they're not where they want to be. let's say they're in a good position, Cameron Brate's a top 10, top 12 tight end, I could definitely trade Cameron Brate if I have one of these young guys here, and Cameron Brate is just a backup. So he's definitely somebody that I like. And to go off that of going, well, what can we expect? Tampa Bay as of right now, so Gronk could come back. And I'm not counting injuries or anything like that. I'm just assuming everyone's there and healthy. 151 missing targets last season. Obviously, they had Russell Gage, and he's probably one of my favorite players to go and get this season. But Cameron Brate, 57 targets last season. Click it again. Cameron Brate got 57 targets last season. 30 receptions, 245 yards, 4 touchdowns, a back-end tight end, too. Let's see, he's their only tight end, essentially. I know they went and got someone young. But let's say he gets the 90 to 100 targets this season. He's looking at another tight end 1 season. We've seen what he's done with a lot of targets. He gets up there to that tight end 1 potential, and this could be a year. I know he's 30, but with how far back you're drafting him, like he's back there in drafts. You can find it on Fantasy Pros. It's even farther back than I thought. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank trying to find 52. They have him at 52. I apologize. They have him all the way back there. So if Gronk's not back, that's definitely somebody you could take a risk on. You could pick him up right now or draft him. You're not investing that much. You're not investing anything too substantial to where if, yet again, Gronk does come back and Cameron Brate's tight end 2 again, he's still going to get you numbers. There's still the potential. Gronk could get hurt, but as of right now on paper, he's their tight end 1, and falling this far in the draft, I do love that value. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys aren't interested in this, the link for my Discord will be in the description down below, where I have all the missing targets and the players that are potentially going to see those targets. It's just a base to go off of and a cool stat that I just went and researched. So if you guys do enjoy it, please leave a like and subscribe. And like I said, the link to the Discord will be down in the description below. Thank you.